Actually, really, I should have put.
What's going on, people? It's your boy, the Boxing Lowdown, and this is episode 109 of the TBL podcast, man. Delighted to be joined, as always, by my main man, the father, Laurie Lara from AFTV here in the building. What's happening, man? We've got a lot to talk about today.
We have indeed. We have indeed. And the first thing I want to do is send a shout out to Eddie Hearn, who this afternoon ended Simon Jordan's broadcasting career, certainly from a boxing perspective. I never want to see or hear that man chat anything to do about boxing again. Not that I actually did watch him or listen to him, but I happened to hear that little tete-a-tete he had with Eddie Hearn today, and he came off decidedly worst. And I'm glad that Eddie Hearn bodied him, man. Get Simon Jordan out of boxing.
That's twice now that Eddie Hearn's bodied Simon Jordan on air.
Yeah. What makes this guy think he could just come into boxing and act like this? He's some oracle on boxing, man. How arrogant are this guy? And listen, I'm not Eddie Hearn's biggest fan at times. I do rate him as a promoter, but sometimes he's a bit too much, if you know what I mean. But hey, it is what it is.
Well, a lot of people were at the beginning. A lot of people were kind of recipient to Simon Jordan because they said to it like at least
Me, man.
he was asking the questions that a lot of these boxing reporters do not ask, which was what we all wanted to see.
Yeah, but he's only asking them with one promoter.
Hold on. The problem was that he didn't keep the same energy towards Frank Warren and Fury, which is why it came off not good in the end. If he kept that same energy with Frank Warren and Fury, which was raised today, by the way, then maybe people would have been a lot more recipient to it. But yeah, because he was going in on Eddie Hearn, which is fine, but you got to keep the same energy to everybody, if it's really going to take off.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true, actually. But he's got no humility for a guy that doesn't know anything about boxing, man. Just listen sometimes. Stop talking over people. He not just does it to Eddie Hearn. I've noticed he does it to a few of the people. He does it to Spencer Oliver. He does it to Gareth A. Davis. Not that I particularly care for Gareth A. Davis, by the way. But you know what I mean? He does it consistently, talking over people, acting like you know about this thing. You know what I mean? You're a Johnny come lately as far as boxing's concerned. Stick to football or some other subjects, man. Because the thing about boxing is it's a niche sport. And like niche sports is, if you don't know what you're talking about, you soon get exposed. And when you try and act like you know more than people already in the game, you just embarrass yourself when you get found out. And today was a classic example of it. But I'm not going to dwell on it too much because I'm not here to promote talk sport. But I thought I would just start by saying he got bodied today. And I was glad to hear Eddie Hearn just put him to rest once and for all. Career done.
Himanshu says here, Laurie, I think you meant Gareth A. Fury. Big up Himanshu in the building, man. He says here, Laurie's about to cook Dillian. We're going to go in on that for sure. Ian Hamilton says, evening, guys, let's get going. I imagine Laurie has been cooking, so let's get going. Before I get started on the show, big up everybody that's about to join as well. As I'm going to do for every podcast, I'm going to recap on the most recent Mythical Monday video that I uploaded. So just a quick 1 minute, 2 minute recap. Put Laurie on the spot here. I did it a couple of weeks ago, I think, for what a Mythical Monday matchup. So I'm going to do it for this one as well, if you haven't seen it already. But Gervonta Davis and Sugar Shane Mosley at 135. How does that go for you?
Gervonta Davis versus Sugar Shane Mosley.
135.
That's an interesting one. At lightweight.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? I'd have to go for Shane Mosley. I'd have to go for Shane Mosley, man. Shane Mosley at lightweight was an absolute beast. I mean, he was a beast even further up the weights as far as welter. But at lightweight, man, he was imperious. But that being said, Gervonta Davis is no slouch himself. So you keep coming up with these good. I must admit, man, I've got to give you credit for that, man, because most of the time, mythical stuff and that, I'm not really, you know me, even when they talk about pound for pound, it's something that I don't always like to engage in. But I must admit, man, you've come up with some good ones recently. So yeah, shout out to you with that. But yeah, if I had to choose, then I would lean ever so slightly towards a vintage Shane Mosley. And his best weight was at lightweight. So yeah,
Mosley. What, knockout or points?
Not a knockout, because I rate Gervonta's chin. I rate his boxing skill. Got good defense, actually. but I just think that Mosley might outwork him. You see, Gervonta Davis is not super active, is he? He tends to be he's what I call an aggressive counterpuncher,
Mm.
which means that he'll be on the front foot or the back foot because he can box off the front or back foot. But predominantly, he likes to counter people. You know what I mean? Set you up, wait for you to make a mistake, which could work against a Shane Mosley type fighter, but I think he might give away rounds. There would be spells when he wouldn't be doing too much, and Shane would be picking up points with a jab and his movement and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm leaning towards Shane Mosley.
Okay, cool. We got that one out of the way. Appreciate your response on that. But let's get cooking, right? Let's get straight into it, man. We'll start off with the news today. It was confirmed that Anthony Joshua will now be facing Robert Helenius this weekend after Dillian Whyte popped dirty with having an adverse finding after VADA did their routine drug testing. We'll get on to Dillian Whyte after this, but I just want your thoughts on this opponent because Robert Helenius, who was in action over the weekend, so he is fit and ready. We last saw him getting splattered by Deontay Wilder in one round. However, Robert Helenius, in terms of a last-minute opponent, literally within a week, they had to get someone in. I'm not too angry about it, and here's why. It's not going to be on pay-per-view anymore, this show that's taking place at the weekend. Robert Helenius has just come off a fight. He is a well-known name. It is a name that can be compared with Deontay Wilder, considering Deontay Wilder fought Robert Helenius last time out. He does have some names on his record, hasn't beaten them all, but, you know, he did just before Wilder was in there with Kalnacki, beat him twice. He is tall. He can hit. So, yeah, it's not the best opponent, but at the end of the day, I think it's probably as good as we can get in this sort of situation. Although some people would say that Gerald Washington might have been a better fit, considering Gerald Washington did beat Robert Helenius back in the day. Gerald Washington is not as dangerous as a puncher as Helenius, but he is tall and athletic. So both of those guys, for me, could be a good enough preparation for Wilder. Not that they're anywhere near the level of Wilder, but in terms of stature, in terms of height, in terms of Helenius who can bang, you know, maybe that might be as good as it can get, considering this was a bad situation for AJ. What do you think?
Yeah, I think given the lateness of which they had to select an opponent, I think Helenius is probably the best fit, to be honest, for a number of reasons. I mean, what were the options that we were being suggested with? Derek Chisora.
That was never going to happen. Gerald Washington was one that was seriously considered. Otto
Yeah,
Warren.
to me, that wasn't.
Bacoli, Martin Bacoli available, maybe, you know? Would he have jumped in?
Yeah, exactly. Would he have jumped in at that late notice? I don't think he would. Yeah, I mean, people were talking about Derek. That's a non-starter. Not only that, the two of them are friends. I'm pretty sure that Derek's signed by 258 Management as well, isn't he?
Yeah, exactly.
So I know that David A had come out and made some spurious comment about he knew a week and a half ago before. I think David A was trolling when he said that, to be honest.
Yeah, I didn't take
As soon as he come out with that, he had that look on his face that suggested he was trolling. I didn't believe none of it. Yeah, and then people were talking about who was the other contenders they were saying?
I think the two main ones were Helenius and Gerald Washington.
Yeah, of the two, I definitely prefer Helenius. I mean, Gerald Washington is well past his best. You could argue that Helenius is well past his best, but Gerald Washington, even though he has a win over Helenius, as you said earlier, 8-round KO. At this stage in his career, Gerald Washington, man, I'm not sure if he's got the ambition. I guess him being trained by Malik Scott, you could make a causal link there as preparation for Wilder by fighting a fighter that's been coached by Malik Scott, who is the trainer of Wilder. But no, that fight did not excite me one little bit. I think of the options available, Helenius is probably the best look. People were talking about Ergovic. That was never going to happen. Ergovic was training for Dempsey McKean, a southpaw. Would Hergovic have taken the fight? Everyone was saying, oh, there's no way AJ will take that fight. He's far too dangerous for AJ. Surely AJ is far too dangerous for Hergovic at this stage of his career. when you consider that if he wins this fight on Saturday against Dempsey McKean, then he's guaranteed a IBF title shot. Don't forget, AJ ain't got a title, so why would Hrgovic even take that fight? So he was never going to take it.
The money.
Dempsey McKean's a southpaw, so that wouldn't have been preparation for Wilder. Again, would Dempsey McKean take that fight, knowing that if he beats Hrgovic, he will think he has a chance against Hrgovic? Then he'll be go for the IBF title shot. Well, they're supposed to be fighting. It's supposed to be an eliminator. So surely you're going to prioritize
money, right? That's not an incentive.
Not when you've got a title shot on the horizon. I mean, how much more money would they have got? I don't know, because it's not pay-per-view anymore, is it?
No.
So, I mean, listen, man, Helenius is a big, strong guy. He's what, 6'6.5", something like that. He can punch. There's no doubt about it. And up until the Wilder fight, he was on a good run of form. I mean, he got done by Wilder in a round, but then let's face it, that is no real shame, is it? Because anybody that Wilder hits square on the chin, there's a strong possibility that he's going to get him out of there. It just so happened for Helenius that he got done in the first round. But listen, man, I mean, he's got some decent wins. He's beaten Adam Karanaki. He's beaten Derek Chisora, by the way. So he can punch.
Yeah.
I think as an amateur, I think he beat David Price twice, Helenius. So he's no slouch. He can fight. It's just that he's definitely in the twilight years of his career. He's not the best opponent, but he's certainly not the worst. And I think when you consider that he's in effect saved the show, then I think that that's a pretty good choice of opponent, to be honest, at this late stage.
Yeah. I mean, I did a poll, and obviously the people on my social media weren't happy with it. But I'm just like, you have to be realistic, man. What do you really expect? I mean, who did you really? I know Andy Ruiz called AJ out. That was never going to happen.
No, that's clout. That's clout.
Yeah, that weren't going to happen, right? So, considering the circumstances, and considering again that this wasn't AJ's fault. You know what I mean? He was come prepared to fight Dillian Whyte, and like I said, we'll touch on that in a bit. But yeah, I think considering the circumstances, Robert Helenius is as good as it gets, and they've taken it off pay-per-view. So it is going to be on just a regular DAZN subscription. But yeah, I mean, in preparation for Deontay Wilder, considering that Wilder, like, listen, these guys don't have a patch on Wilder, as we know. But in terms of height, in terms of the fact that Helenius can punch, it's not too bad of an opponent to be in with if you're going to be fighting Wilder next. Fighting somebody like Chisora, for example, that's not going to be best preparation for Wilder. At least with AJ, he's got a tall body in front of him who's relatively athletic, who can punch. He just has nowhere near the same ability as Deontay Wilder.
I think the question that a lot of people have with regards to Helenius is that, given that the fight is already at this late stage, is how much ambition he will have. I mean, he said on the record that he will be coming to bring it, and let's hope he does. AJ's in a bit of a catch-22, because if he does to Helenius what Wilder did to him, then everyone's going to say, oh, Helenius was just looking for a soft spot on the canvas, just there for the money. If he takes AJ a few rounds, people are going to say, oh, AJ shot to pieces, he ain't got it anymore. So, listen, man, it is what it is. It's the best of some bad options. And let's face it, Helenius, as you said, big, strong guy, can punch. He's actually coming off a win. I think he fought a 6-0 guy from his own country that a lot of people were touting to do some good stuff in the future. And Helenius got rid of him in a couple of rounds. So, yeah, man, he can dig. He'll be there. We'll see what he brings, because we won't really know until fight night. Because, I mean, of course, he can talk all this stuff about ambition and get in there and just decide that he don't really fancy it the first time he gets hit. But we'll see.
Yeah, we will see. And shout out to all you guys for the comments, man. Appreciate that. If you haven't already, hit the like button. Hit that like button up, man. Share the video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. AJ's confidence going into this. Now, this is going to be, his second fight with Derek James. He needs to really put on an impressive performance here and really just take Helenius out, make a statement. I mean, I'll carry on talking. So, yeah, it won't be particularly a statement win, but he just needs to build up his confidence, in my opinion, because I'm going to say it, a lot of people have said it as well. He has appeared slightly gun-shy since the loss to Ruiz. I mean, he's had knockout victories since then against Kubrat Pulev, but at times, and as you get older and you get more mature, this tends to happen anyway. So AJ is in his 30s right now, but I just think that to set the juices flowing for that fight with Wilder, which already sets the juices flowing for me anyway. That's massive for me. But if AJ got a clean knockout where he just looked destructive, you're not gonna beat what Wilder did, because you're not gonna take Helenius out with the first punch in the first round. So that's not gonna happen. But I think it's important for him to just establish, maybe get a couple of rounds in, then end it with a knockout win, as you said you're going to do against Jermaine Franklin, but he wasn't able to do. I just think that he needs to have a positive win, look good doing it, call out Deontay Wilder afterwards, say that, yeah, that's the one I want next, we're going to make that happen next, and get the juices flowing. That's what we want to see, man. That makes the best of a bad situation here. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, and to go back to the Jermaine Franklin fight, I mean, listen, I'm only speaking. You've asked me the question. This is my opinion. I personally think AJ took too much stick over that performance.
Well, before you carry on, AJ was the one that said he was wanted to knock him out. That's why I think he got a lot of stick. AJ did say that. So,
yeah, but most heavyweights will say that. No heavyweight goes into a fight saying, "Yeah, I'm going to outpoint him," do they? Especially heavyweights, they all say that because that's what people expect heavyweights to do, knock each other out. That being said, listen, Jermaine Franklin is an underrated opponent. He'd fought Dillian before. He fought AJ. And I thought he beat Dillian. I remember watching that fight from my hospital bed. I had a little hospital stay around about that time of that fight. You will know that, Daryl. And yeah, I watched that from a hospital bed. Me being a boxing nerd that I am, I actually sat down and scored it because I was all by myself in my room watching the fight. And I had Jermaine Franklin a couple of rounds up. At least one round up anyway.
This was against Dillian Whyte?
That was against Dillian Whyte. Fought AJ. AJ beat him, won most of the rounds. Okay, he didn't look overly impressive. He did look a little bit gun shy, especially early out. Did take the risks, what people expect to see. Wasn't his best performance, but I thought some of the criticism afterwards was a bit unfounded, a bit unwarranted. Jermaine Franklin fought since AJ and got a win, didn't he?
Yeah.
So it's not a bad opponent, you know what I mean? People need to rein it in a little bit when they, you know what I mean, saying that AJ shot this, that, and the other. Yes, he's not on a good run of form. He's coming off the 2 defeats to Usyk, but it's Usyk we're talking about, bro. It's not your regular heavyweight fighter. So I'm very interested to see what he does from here on in. I'm looking forward to seeing how he does against Helenius, actually. Listen, Helenius is potentially dangerous because he can whack. And if you allow a guy like that to get his confidence up, to stick around for a few rounds, make him start thinking, oh, hang on, I've got a chance here, then you never know. All of a sudden, it could become a difficult night because let's face it, Helenius hits far harder than Jermaine Franklin does. And Jermaine Franklin was able to catch AJ a couple of times. So, listen, man, they could have done a lot worse than the Nordic Nightmare. And I think that AJ, I'm looking forward to seeing how he gets on Saturday. He's been working with Derek James. Eddie Hearn's been quite vocal saying, you know, I know a lot of this is bluster. Eddie Hearn's bound to say a lot of this stuff, but he's saying it's the best he's ever seen him. He's in great shape. And he's looking to for AJ to go in there and do a number on his opponent. We'll see. We'll see.
What if he goes to points and it's a similar performance to last time out and it's quite laboured? I mean, what do you think the mood and the feeling would be like if that was the case?
I think the mood will be the mood from. I think Eddie Hearn will be the most disappointed because he's got to try and sell that Wilder fight. You know what I mean? So, yeah. But listen, I don't think it will go to points because I think Helenius, he's not Jermaine Franklin. You know what I mean? He doesn't have the subtleties and the boxing skills and the defense that he's not as crafty as Jermaine Franklin. Well, he's a big lump, big, strong guy. And when he's in the right frame of mind, he's quite aggressive. So he will come forward, or at least even if he's not coming forward, he'll be looking to try and land that big right hand he's got. And so that will mean that he's in the pocket ready for AJ to counter or tee off on, as we hope. So I'm expecting a better fight, if you like. Certainly from the casuals' perspective than the Jermaine Franklin fight. I'm also expecting AJ to get the job done and to get the job done inside the distance.
Yep, I have to agree with you on that. I reckon that AJ
Styles
will.
make fights,
Yeah,
and Helenius' style is completely different from Helenius' style is completely different from Franklin's style.
yeah. Yeah, I have to agree. I'll probably go for AJ in maybe between 5 and 7, I would say. But we'll see. I
Yeah,
think
I
it's
mean, I
important
expect AJ
to get.
to get some of the ring rust off, use the jab, create some openings, and then take him out. That's what I'm hoping to see, expecting to see. Will I see it? Who knows? Heavyweight boxing, man, can change momentum with just one punch. So we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Well, while we're big up IA in the chat here, Ian, I see you. Big up to Himanshu, all you guys, man. Appreciate you all being here. Let's move on to Dillian Whyte, man, because a lot of people want to get your opinion on this. I touched on this yesterday in the live. Obviously, it's not new news anymore. It's been out since Saturday. And let me just say this as well before I carry on. As my cousin Dan told me, this happened on Jamaican Independence Weekend, man. So Dillian Whyte let us down in more than one way. You know what I'm saying? But I'll carry on. He failed the VADA test. The fight obviously with him and AJ got cancelled. He released a statement on his Instagram. Since then, Dan Raphael came out and reported that it was multiple VADA tests that Dillian Whyte had failed. Haven't received official confirmation on that, but I can imagine that it's probably true. So yeah, Dillian Whyte pretty much in the mud right now. I just want to get your thoughts on all of this. Since it's happened, and we haven't got your thoughts on it on this channel. So just give me your opinion on it. This is the third time that Dillian Whyte has been busted. The first time, obviously, he got a ban. The second time, he got cleared to fight anyway. And obviously now it's the third time. So I've been hearing statements like this is the UK Jarrell Miller. I'll let you cook on it. So I'll let you start from the beginning about this news.
Yeah, he's just as bad as Jarrell Miller, if not worse, bro. Like, I mean, this guy,
Worse.
man. Yeah, I mean, he's. I've had it with Dillian, man. I want him out of boxing, bro. And I'm speaking as a man that used to admire him in the ring, certainly. Anyway, I've had enough of guys like this, man. Just a serial cheat. That's what he is, a serial cheat. And I would go further than that. I would say he's a coward as well, because really and truly, when you strip it all down, man, that's Dillian is one of those people that, right, you're cheating in a sport like boxing because you're worried of what the other man's going to do to you. We saw what happened when he fought Fury. He got absolutely taken to school and knocked out, didn't even put up an effort. And I think that he's taken this fight. He probably knows deep down that he can't beat Joshua. And what he's tried to do is load up on the gear and see how he can get on, you know what I mean? And I'm just disgusted, man. I mean, because listen, it's not the first time by any stretch of the imagination with Dillian, right? I've been hearing stories about him. Listen, okay, you look at Dillian's record as far as Pet is concerned, you go all the way back to when he was a kickboxer, apparently. I'm seeing stories that he got popped dirty when he was a kickboxer. He got thrown out of amateur boxing because he lied and said that he hadn't had any amateur experience when he was kickboxing then. If you remember the fight with Joshua, he got thrown out of the amateurs. You do know that, right?
No, I
Yeah.
don't think I knew that.
Yeah. When he fought Joshua as an amateur and he beat Joshua, I remember he put Joshua down. Very good performance. It later transpired that he had lied and said that he had no amateur experience or no fighting experience when at that time he was a professional kickboxer or words to that effect. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I
then
didn't know.
he got banned from boxing. He got banned from boxing, then he turned pro. He got done, albeit it was an over the counter supplement that he bought that was on the banned list. Okay, you could cut me a bit of slack for that, right? Then we had the Oscar Rivas thing, that notorious incident where he apparently failed a drugs test, and Oscar Rivas' camp wasn't even informed, which I thought that was disgraceful. And now this, you know what I mean? Multiple tests, as Dan Raphael is reporting. It's disgraceful, bro. Like, I mean, and you know my feelings about drugs in sport, man, especially in a sport like boxing or any combat sport, but especially a sport like boxing when, you know what I mean, you're hitting people around the head, and especially in the heavyweights, the purpose is to render the other guy unconscious, you know what I mean? And you're loading yourself up artificially like that. It's not fair. and it could have devastating consequences. And when you got a guy like this who's just continually cheating, what do you do? You know what I mean? Like I've heard people say, right? Oh, he's probably finished because if he gets a 2 or 3 year ban, that'll be he's 38. Do you think that when
I see
Dillian
that.
steps that ban, he's going to retire from? Of course, he's not. What else is he going to do? He's not going to become a commentator, is he? On
Yeah.
Talksport, he's going to come straight back into boxing, and then he's going to probably cheat again, like what Jarrell Miller does. You know what I mean? So to me, he's the UK version of Jarrell Miller, maybe even worse, or just as bad anyway. And as much as I formerly admired the guy, I think it's about time now that guys like that have the book thrown at them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Obviously,
while
he's
we're
he
like,
said he tried to deny. Obviously, that statement. I think it was a weak statement on his Instagram as well. By the way, just a quick Insta message saying that again, playing the victim. Oh, they didn't even allow me time to express myself. Come on, bro. Like, you know what I mean? Like you put
you know,
your
the words that got me is when he
respect.
said something like, what was it? Words to the effect that I was the one who asked for my. That seems to be the new go-to line, doesn't it, with the cheats now?
Yeah.
That used, I think Oscar Valdez used a similar thing. A few of them now are using that same line. They must all get that. There must be a template, right, that they all use and just substitute certain words.
Mm.
I was the one that wanted VADA testing for this fight. Yeah, all right. Yeah, whatever, man. What you meant is either the advice you got in cycling off was incorrect or you didn't apply the advice correctly. Which
Mm.
one was? You are responsible for what goes in your system. Dillian's been around in this sport for long enough. He's been popped before. I mean, how stupid is that? I mean, like the purse you would have been getting for this week, I would imagine, is fairly significant. You've been done before. I mean, if that was me or you, I would be drinking. I'd be drinking water and eating bread for this fight. You know what I mean? I'd be
Yeah.
so careful about what I ingested. So there's absolutely no excuse. He shouldn't even be taking vitamin supplements for a fight like this, given his past record.
I'm
You
not
know what I
buying
mean?
it. I mean, look how much he's made. He's had camps over there in Portugal, so obviously he invests a lot of money into his training camps. You trying to tell me that you're not investing serious money, considering you've been pop dirty before, into
Yeah.
a team that will prevent this sort of situation happening, given what's at stake?
And
You know,
not only that, the fact that he's been done before a couple of times, that would suggest to me that you would be extremely careful about whatever, even a bar of chocolate, I'd be looking on the ingredients to see if
yeah,
there's anything there. You know what I mean? And he got people in his team that would be advising him on stuff like this. So there's
yeah.
absolutely no excuse, bro. Absolutely none.
No
I honestly
nutritionist,
think
no nothing. You know what I mean? Like, what is?
there's an element of cowardice about this. Trust me. I mean, most people, in my opinion, who take performance enhancing substances, no matter what the sport, it's born of insecurity that they know that they cannot achieve what they want to achieve without taking banned substances or substances that they feel will enhance them. Yeah. To me, it's born of insecurity. I think he's taken this a couple of levels upwards from that, or maybe downwards, I should say. He's descended into cowardice as far as I'm concerned. It just looks to me like he knew that Joshua was going to smoke him. He's trying to give himself the best possible chance. He knows he's not going to improve his skills at this stage in his career, so he's tried to do it by an alternative means. And I'm, you know, what I mean,
Cheat.
I'm really
Try to cheat.
disgusted with Dillian, man. Yeah, he's a cheat. He's a foul dude, bro. You know what it is, right? He's that kind of guy, yeah, that if you had a street fight with him and whooped his ass, don't turn your back on him
Mm.
because he'll be that one that will try and stab you in the back with something. You know what I mean? Look on the floor for something, and as you're walking away, having kicked his butt, you try and stab you in the back. No, man, I don't like it, bro. And it kind of saddens me to have to say this because I used to stick up for Dillian. I like the guy. I've actually met Dillian a couple of times, man, but I can't hold back my feelings on this one. He's not just let himself down; he's let the sport down as well. You know what I mean? It's terrible. I mean, he promotes fighters.
Yeah, Fabian
What
Woodley.
kind of example is he sending to those guys in his camp? I mean, if you're in his camp being promoted by him, do you want to have Dillian promote you or manage you? I mean, like, nah, man, it's all the way wrong, bro. All the
It's a
way wrong.
funny comment here from IA. Big up IA. He's put here, Whyte is not body beautiful. He has minimal stamina. He has no punch resistance. What exactly is he taking? you know? Um,
Well, it's probably a
else,
concoction of things. He's got it in his head that he can't beat Joshua. He's thinking, let me take something that will at least give me a degree of hope. That's what it is, I think, anyway.
yeah. Himanshu says here he's been caught 2 to 3 times, but guys, you have to think how many times has he done it and not got caught? Very good point.
Whoa, yeah,
Very good point.
absolutely. Absolutely. And, whilst we're on this, though, we should also say that he is not the only one. There's a certain heavyweight champion of the world, current heavyweight champion of the world. He's also a convicted drug street. You know what I feel? I mean, listen, when we've done these shows in the past, right, and we've spoken about pound for pound lists, and I've been quite unequivocally clear. I said that me personally, I would not have anybody on my pound for pound list that's been a convicted drugs cheat. And I named Fury and Canelo as two. People were coming at me in the comments saying, "Oh, you're just saying that because you don't like them. They're not black." This, you know what I mean? Dillian's black. You know what I mean? So, bro, like, I just don't like the idea of drugs cheats in boxing. But I'm becoming increasingly concerned because it's so prevalent now that it's getting to the stage where people listening to certain YouTubers and they're saying, is there a case now for decriminalizing PEDs, so to speak, in boxing? In other words, you allow people to take what they want to take. The fact that people are actually openly talking about that now is sad, isn't it? Let's be honest.
What do you think happens next with Dillian?
Dillian will, I think,
tonight
be found. Yeah, of course he will. But I don't think when the due process is followed, I think he'll be suspended or banned or whatever it is, and then he'll be back, man. He'll be back boxing in a few years' time, and in a couple of years' time.
But who's going to touch him?
You'll still have your channel. Me and you will be talking about him featuring in fights again. Look at Jerome Miller; he's fighting again. Jerome Miller even had the cheek to offer himself up for AJ for this fight.
Yeah, but first of all, what promoter will touch Dillian Whyte? And second
You
of all,
say that, Carol,
he's been boxing in obscurity. No one even really pays attention to him anymore. So it's almost like he's been blacklisted. He's not on any major shows or anything. Or is he? I don't.
Yeah, but I wouldn't write it out, man. I would not. I mean, he fought. What's the Australian guy? Jerome Miller fought him. Lucas Brown, who's also a drugs cheat, by the way. See, maybe he should have a drugs cheat championship.
Maybe he could fight Jerome Miller now. Maybe that.
Yeah.
Let them have a little.
Listen, you know how this thing run. Dillian will serve his ban. He will proclaim his innocence. He will do all sorts to try and convince us that he never knowingly took what he took, blah, blah, blah. Then probably what he'll do, he'll have a period where he will attempt to try and go on some kind of exercise where he tries to win people back over. And then he'll say, I'm sorry or whatever. He'll be back. I'm telling you now, in a couple of years' time, if you still got your podcast, Darryl, me and you will be talking about him. Because he's not going to give up boxing, is he? What else is Dillian going to do?
Well, he does manage fighters, I guess,
Yeah, but he's not going to want to go out of his career like this, is he? Dillian Whyte is not going to want to go out of boxing like this. No way. And no disrespect to Dillian. It's not as if he's going to become a commentator or something like that, or a promoter or whatever. He's a fighter at heart. And as soon as that ban has been served, he'll be looking to get back in the game, and he will get back in the game too. If he has to go abroad to get a license, I've got no doubts that's what he will do, and he will be fighting again. And he'll probably go on to cheat again as well.
Yeah. Himanshu says here, Fury got popped after the Klitschko fight, didn't he?
Yeah.
He got popped. That happened before the Klitschko fight, but he got popped after, right? Is that right?
Yeah, I think that's right, yeah.
Yeah. His fan says here, after Conor Benn, Miller and Whyte, last time they were allowed to come back, I don't have any expectations any other sport would end them. Yeah,
listen, man, Canelo was pound for pound #1 for years, and he did so in the full knowledge that he was a drugs cheat. And to boxing shame, there was many people in the sport that were more than happy for him to get away with it. Let's be honest. Hardly mentioned it. And like I said, when people like me and you mentioned it, we got accused of being biased towards him because he was Mexican, he weren't black, because you didn't like him, this and that. You know what I mean? So boxing has a bad history and reputation of dealing with drugs cheats.
Yeah. Shout out to Leon as well. He says here, first time Dillian took a supplement that had a substance that got put on the ban list weeks before. Second time, proven contamination. And for the third time, we don't know. Yeah, we haven't had confirmation yet as to what the banned substance was that Dillian Whyte has taken. I guess more information on that is due to come out. So,
Yeah, but he has no real excuse, man. I'm sorry.
yeah, I'm not buying it regardless,
Yeah,
to be
I'm
honest.
not buying it. And if he does, you know what? I'll be the first one to come back on this show and hold my hands up and apologize to him.
Me
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
But if that's not the case, which I strongly suspect it won't be, then everything I said here, I'm standing by. Dillian, you're a cheat, and you need to be treated accordingly. And like I said, cheating in boxing to me amounts to cowardice, because basically what you're saying is, you know, you can't beat Joshua naturally, so you're going to try and cheat to beat him. To me, that's the definition of cowardice.
Yeah. Let's segue on to our next part of the show, man. And you know, before I do, actually, just your last thoughts on that card this weekend. You're going to be watching it. Any other undercard fights you're looking forward to?
Yeah, there's a couple of decent fights on there. I'm looking
Hergovic.
forward to watching Hergovic. He's fighting the unbeaten big Australian 6'6", 6'7" guy Dempsey McKean, who's also unbeaten. That could be a good fight, actually.
Yeah.
Dempsey McKean's a southpaw. He sounds confident, says he's coming to win. Hergovic, we know he's a good fighter, but he's not looked great in that last fight against Zhang. A lot of people thought he lost, myself included. But he did come through it. I know he had some problems, some personal problems. I know his dad wasn't well. I think he lost his dad, actually. So that might account for the lack of performance on the night. So he's got a point to prove. And if this is, of course, as I alluded to earlier, a fight that the winner can expect to get an IBF heavyweight title shot. So there's a lot on the line there. Looking forward to seeing Johnny Fisher, you know what I mean, the big ticket seller from Romford, not far from where I live. Yeah, he sounds like a prospect. It's always good to look at prospects, see how they get on. Apparently they're stepping him up this weekend. So yeah, that's well worth looking at. So yeah, and not only that, whenever there's a big card as this was, you always look forward to seeing how it's going to unfold. So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to it. And I'm actually looking forward to seeing Joshua. Like I said, second fight with Derek James, and we'll see what he's got.
Yeah. Yeah. Looking forward to it. Let's see how it goes, man. Right. Let's segue into our next part of the show. I want to know if you first of all saw the epilogue, the final episode to All Access for Spence and Crawford. There was a part of that episode where Terence Crawford motioned, he knocked down Spence for the third time in the fight. That was in the 7th round. He went over to the corner, motioned over to Jermell Charlo, who was there rooting for his boy Errol Spence in the crowd, you know, saying that he's a BAN, you know, I'll let you guys figure out what that is. And then motioned to him in the crowd that you're next, I want you next. Since then, Crawford obviously went on to defeat Spence in the 9th round. Excellent episode of All Access, by the way. But yeah, Spence went on to lose that fight in the 9th round, Crawford becoming undisputed. Since then, that video clip went viral of Crawford and Charlo exchanging words. Charlo since put on an Instagram post saying that after he fights Canelo, he'll be willing to drop down to 154 again and take on Terence Crawford. So he called him out and basically said, yeah, let's make it happen. Terence Crawford replied on that Instagram post and basically said, yeah, good luck in your fight with Canelo. And yeah, let's make it happen, whatever. So listen, there's a lot to happen first, considering Charlo has to move up 2 weights to fight Canelo, then drop back down, which is going to be heavy on the body, and then take on somebody like Terence Crawford. But let's just talk about it here while we're here, man. Your thoughts on Jermell Charlo, Terence Crawford. Could he do any better than Errol Spence, in your opinion? He is bigger. He is going to be quick. He does punch very hard. So yeah, it'll be Crawford that will be moving up to new territory at 154. But then Charlo will be dropping back down, boiling his body down. We've seen how that works with the likes of a Roy Jones Jr. when he moved up 2 weights and boiled down. So that would be dangerous territory for him. But your thoughts on it, first of all, can you see it happening? And if it did, how do you see it playing out?
I can see it happening, and if it does happen, I think that Jermell Charlo would suffer his 2nd straight loss, because he's not going to beat Canelo. I don't think so. I'll be extremely so, because with Canelo, I mean, I know I'm digressing, but I won't be too long. How's he going to beat Canelo? He's not going to knock Canelo out, yeah, because Canelo's got one of the best gyms in boxing. He's also 2 weight classes above Charlo, so I can't see that happening. Um, Even if he does outbox Canelo, which he can win some rounds, but I can't see him sweeping the cards. He will have to sweep the cards to get a decision against Canelo on Cinco de Mayo weekend or whenever it is. He's not going to beat Canelo on point. So I don't think that that particular venture is going to be successful. Then, like you said, he's going to be dropping down in weight. We all know what happens to fighters when they drop down in weight. It's never a good look, especially 2 weights. So you've gone up 2 weights. Now you've got to crash the weight back down again. He's a big junior middleweight, so he must struggle to make the weight. And then you're fighting a guy like Crawford, super skilled, super motivated, on top form at the moment. And if you look at the two guys' skill sets, I do rate Jermell Charlo as a fighter, I have to say that. But I just think that Crawford beats him, man. I mean, I guess it's easy to say that in the light of what he did to Errol Spence. But I just think Crawford is one of those special talents, man, a special generational talent. And I could see it being a good fight because Charlo, you know, he's athletic, he's explosive, dynamic, he can punch, he does have skills. But I just think Crawford's on a different level to him. And when you consider as well that it's no secret, right, in boxing. If you follow your boxing, you will know that people say that Errol Spence regularly gets the better of Charlo in sparring. In fact, I've heard Charlo say that himself.
Yeah,
I've heard Charlo say that himself. So you have to imagine that a top form Crawford beats Charlo. And like I said, I'm expecting if he does fight Crawford, that he'll be coming off a loss to Canelo. I don't know psychologically or physically how much that will affect him. But like I said, I can't see him beating Canelo. I just can't see it. So, yeah.
Himanshu says Tony Harrison absolutely outboxed Charlo, so Crawford takes care of him.
I wouldn't say absolutely outboxed him, but in that first fight, I actually thought Charlo did enough to win that first fight. In the second fight, Harrison was doing a lot better, actually, in the boxing stakes. Wouldn't say absolutely outboxing Charlo, but he was winning on points until Charlo caught up with Tony Harrison quite late and knocked him out. Brian Castano was also having a lot of success against Charlo, especially in their first fight. So, and I think it's fair to say that Crawford is a level above those two guys, even though they're heavier than Crawford. And let's be honest as well, a lot of people advance the theory that Errol Spence was weight drained against Terence Crawford, which, listen, he weren't right. And I don't want to make too many excuses for him. He didn't look himself, but that had 90% to do with what Crawford was doing too. But the point I'm going to make is, if you remember, Daryl, because we spoke about this in the lead up to the Spence-Crawford fight, Crawford failed to make weight for that fight. He had to go to the scales 2 or 3 times, which suggests, I mean, he's 35 years old now, right? That he's filled out. He's topping out at welterweight, yeah? So he's due a move up. And I always think that fighters perform a bit better when they move up like that. Look at what Inoue did to Fulton, you know what I mean? Rather than when they're coming down. When they go up in weight is when they look a little bit more explosive. You saw that with Inoue, you saw that with Crawford when he stepped up to welterweight and how he's performed at welterweight. Now he's stepping up to junior middleweight. And then the confidence that he would have taken from that win over Spence is immeasurable, isn't it? You can just imagine that his confidence right now is through the absolute roof. Now, if Charlo was to beat Canelo, then obviously his confidence would be through the roof too. So I guess
here's the additional scenario though. If he was to beat Canelo, don't you think Canelo would have it locked in for a rematch?
Yeah, I'm sure that would happen.
Straight after that, you know. So that's something to consider. And also,
I simply cannot envision a world where Charlo beats Canelo. Even if I watch the fight, I don't. It's not impossible, but it's very unlikely because. Can you see Charlo knocking Canelo out?
I can't.
Canelo's got a hell of a chin.
I can't, but you know, Charlo is athletic, he's quick. What he needs to do for me, I think his only way is his way of winning for me is knowing that don't expect, because he gets very power happy. You know, he kind of admires his own power, which he does have a lot of power. I think he needs to go into this fight, Charlo. I think he needs to go into this fight knowing that you're probably not going to knock Canelo out. So what you need to do is be in and out, land your shots, be athletic. That's what he's got to do. Like he can't
Yeah,
go in
but
there.
that's easier said than done, bro. And
He
not
can't
only
go in
that,
there and bang bang with Canelo. I don't think because Canelo's the bigger man,
that's
bigger
easier
body.
said than done. And not only that, Canelo's probably going to have one of them small ass rings like what he had for John Ryder. It's a shoebox ring.
I've seen Charlo circle opponents, leap in with his shots, do what he needs to do, then move back. I think he needs to employ that sort of strategy with Canelo.
I mean, obviously that fight is yet to come, and we'll be
Yeah, we'll talk about
previewing it. But the way I see that fight, I'll tell you right now in a couple of seconds. I could see Charlo doing well early. Canelo's a slow starter. Charlo's actually quite a quick starter. I could see Charlo jumping out the gate and winning some rounds and looking really good. But over the course of the 12 rounds, because like I said, I don't think there's any way he stops Canelo. Canelo will start to wear him down with a body attack, and Canelo will either stop him late or win a points decision. I can't see him beating Canelo. And like I said, then he's got to drop back down and face pound for pound number one of the best generational talents. And I just think Crawford will be too much for him.
Well, before I get to Ian's comment here, can we at least? I mean, Charlo is not really, he's not, particularly the favourite amongst a lot of boxing fans, from what I gather. But I think it is safe to say that he wants to smoke, man. Fair play to him. Apart from the Tim Tszyu where it can be looked at that he avoided that one potentially. He has taken on every challenger since, and he's looking to fight Canelo here because his brother wasn't able to do it. And now he's calling out Crawford. So one thing about Charlo, whether you like him or not, it seems like he does want the smoke with the majority of these opponents,
Yeah, listen, I've got no problem with him there. You know what I mean? I tend not to look at fighters like that anymore. I'm long past that stage. I'm a lot older now, so I don't tend to go on emotion like that or you know what I mean, what I like and what I don't like. I'm assessing him as a fighter. Yeah, I don't like the way that the Charlos conduct themselves. You saw the brother the other day got the taste slapped out of his mouth by Caleb Plant. Well done to Caleb Plant for doing that. I don't like the way they conduct themselves outside the ring. But there's a lot of fighters I could say the same thing of. So I'm not even going there with it. What I'm saying's got nothing to do with how I feel about him as a person. I don't particularly care for the Charlos, either of them, but I do rate him as a fighter. In fact, we did a show a few weeks back. We talked about pound for pound. I think I had him in my top 10 pound for pound fighters, unified junior middleweight champion of the world. Doesn't get the credit that I think he should get a lot of the time. Maybe a lot of that is because of the way these guys, him and his brother, conduct themselves out the ring. I couldn't really tell you. But I do rate him. It's just that you ask me the questions and I'm just answering in the cold light of day. I don't think he's going to beat Canelo. And then I think to step back down 2 weights to fight a guy that I personally think is one of the best, if not the best generational talent we've had for some time. I just think that Crawford will be too much, too skilled, too much of everything, really. He's just a better boxer. And listen, Jermell Charlo is a very good boxer, but Crawford is a great fighter. He's elite. That's the difference.
Okay, well, we'll see there's a lot of things that need to happen for this showdown to take place. But yeah, I just wanted to get your thoughts there. Before I move on, did you catch that All Access epilogue episode there?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, it was very good, as you said. Yeah, I do like those All Access. I was watching one of your shows the other day where you were saying it surpassed the 24/7s that they used to have in the day.
Yeah.
And when you said that, I thought, yeah, you
make a upper level, but I think they've surpassed it now. Yeah.
Yeah. So, like a lot of things in life, it evolves, doesn't it? You know what I mean? It was a very good concept, the 24/7, but I think that what we see now with the Showtime stuff, it's evolved, and that and the epilogue and all the others. Yeah, they're very good. Good insight.
Right. Let's touch on this before we log out today, man. Now, I just wanted your thoughts on this because, again, this is really starting to, I need your thoughts on this because Claressa Shields, it's not enough for her to be the GOAT, right? She's really pursuing Keith Thurman. And Keith Thurman was asked about it at the Spence and Crawford fight. He was asked about Claressa Shields calling him out again because she did a couple of years ago as well. And I want to get your thoughts on it because Keith Thurman basically said, look, I'm not really interested. I don't know why she keeps coming for me. For some reason, she keeps asking for me. And then like he said that if he was to ever do it, it would only be for charity. He would wear the bigger gloves. He would only jab. She could wear headgear. Basically putting a downer on anything to do with that. But Clarissa Shields has begun a campaign really trying to call out Keith Thurman, man, like saying she wants to fight him, saying she started camp. Even Shakur Stevenson coming out saying that he was helping her train for it. Like, what is this, man? Like, what's your thoughts on this? Because for me, this is just totally silly. And if you reverse it and you imagine Keith Thurman pursuing Clarissa Shields like this, could you imagine the sort of heat he would have been getting? So, yeah, I think I know your answer to this already, but just your thoughts on this and why do you think it's happening? And, you know, like,
I'll tell you why it's happening. One word, clout. That's all it is, clout. Either that or she's got some kind of weird crush on Keith Thurman. But I happen to think it's clout because she started this a couple of years ago, and a lot of people decried it then. It's a load of nonsense. It's never going to happen. She knows it. The mere fact that she's on the record as saying, I'm in training for it now, what does that mean? She's not signed any contract to fight Keith Thurman. So that statement alone tells you that it's just a load of clout. What it is with Clarissa, she's starting to look like someone who's a little bored. Like, you know what I mean? Like her motivation is on the wane and she's trying to dream up things to get her name out there. Maybe she doesn't see any viable opponents out there in the women's game. I mean, she was talking about coming down in weight to fight Natasha Jonas. That doesn't seem to be going anywhere. Savannah Marshall doesn't appear to want the rematch in the States. And Clarissa, quite rightly, has said that she'll only fight Savannah Marshall in the States. I do agree with her on that one, that why should she having to come to Britain? So I do agree with that. So she's probably at that stage, man, where she's quite bored insofar as she's looking around and there's no obvious opponents for her. So then she's come up with this thing, the Keith Thurman, that let's face it, she mentioned it a couple of years before and everybody shouted it down then. So she probably thought, if I mention it now, especially now as Keith Thurman's been out there calling out fighters, she attaches her name to Thurman, then it gets everybody, people like me and you talking, which is exactly what's happened. So I've got no...
Why Thurman? Why Keith Thurman? What's the obsession with Thurman?
Well, like I said, she might have some little minor crush on the guy. I don't know what it is, man, but she just... Because we all know that she would not have a chance against Keith Thurman, man. It's not even a starter. No. Yeah. Clarissa, as good as she is, right, she can't even stop women in her weight. Some of them are not even very good as well, and she's not stopped them. KO percentage is very low, even for a woman fighter. She is the best boxer, for sure. But come on, man. She would have no chance against Keith Thurman, and we all know it, and deep down she knows it, but she's just calling the guy out because it's headlines, isn't it? It's clout. And we're living in that social media age where anybody can say anything, and if you say it for long enough and loud enough, it gets noticed. I could do that, couldn't I? I could call out Crawford. You see it with these social media guys, misfits and all that. They do all these little antics and it gets their name out there, and that's what Clarissa's doing, man. I've got no doubt in my mind it's just clout. I'm not even taking it seriously. It's ridiculous. It will never happen. She knows it will never happen. We know it will never happen, but she thinks as long as I keep mentioning the guy's name, some people out there are going to be silly enough to fall for it and say, oh, what if they do actually fight? Who would actually win? Hey, you know what? I think Clarissa's got a chance. Cat.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty... I mean, you said it already. I don't think there's much more for me to eat.
And I would say as well, right, as much as I think it's ridiculous, I would also say this. It's disrespectful to Keith Thurman as well, man. You know what I mean?
Puts him in an awkward situation.
Yeah, it does, man. I think it's pretty poor, really. And you're going after the guy like that in public. You know what I mean? I just think it's in poor taste. And it's a kind of thing that, dare I say it, there's a lot of people out there that, you know, don't like Clarissa Shields for whatever reasons. And, you know, you add this to it, it's yet another reason why they go after her. I mean, I like Clarissa Shields. I've got a lot of love for Clarissa, man, but I just think that this talk is ridiculous because you know it's not going to happen. So concentrate on the women in your sport. I'm sure that there are some pertinent, salient fights out there for you. Go after those fights, man. Lee, keep Thurman's name out your mouth.
Yep, totally agree. Well, look, we got 5 minutes or so left, if that. So, I don't know if there was anything wanted to touch on before we left. Maybe I don't know. Like I think first of all, I think that Spence Crawford fight, I think it gassed up a lot of people, man, for real. But yeah, 5 minutes left. I don't know if there was anything further. I mean,
Yeah, with the Errol Spence, there is something I would like quite to mention. Actually, I've seen a lot of toing and froing on the internet. Everyone's having their say, and I get that. And I'm worried for Errol Spence, man. I am. I'm a big fan of Errol Spence, and I've got a lot of love for him. I mean, I did say earlier on in the show that I tried to separate my personal feelings from the professional ones, but so maybe I'm a bit guilty of doing this right now. Maybe I'm going to sound a little bit hypocritical, but based on what I saw the other day, and I've watched the fight back, just to make sure that I'm not being knee jerk over this. He was soundly beaten, man, and soundly beaten in a way that I think is going to take its toll on him, both from a physical and a mental point of view. And listen, I know he's not going to, but I wouldn't mind seeing Errol call it a day in boxing, man. You know what I mean? I think he took a bad beating. I don't think he's right. I think there could be residual damage from the car crash. Yes, I do think that. Even before this doctor thing that's gone viral and all that, a lot of people were talking about it before. Don't get me wrong, I think Errol could fight on and fight to a certain level, but I saw things in that fight that were worrying. Whether it's down to the weight or the residual damage from the car crash, I'm not so sure. But I think you've got to be very careful with him going forward, man. I personally would like to see him retire. I know he won't. He's not going to retire.
not going to
We all
retire.
know he's going to fight on. But if he was to turn around and shock us all and say, you know what, I'm going to retire and enjoy my money, enjoy my kids and my farm, I would have absolutely no complaints about that at all, because there were certain things I saw that night that I didn't like the look of. And at the end of the day, you can have as much money as you want. You can have as many titles if you want. What's the point if you can't speak and, you know what I mean,
Well,
neurologically?
what do you have to say to those that that will respond to it and will say, look, there have been plenty of fighters that have took beatings in the past. Arturo
Yeah, look
Gatti,
at them.
wait,
You know what I mean?
hold on, wait. Arturo Gatti took numerous beatings. There are a load of fighters that have taken beatings in the ring in the past. Why, after Errol Spencer suffered one loss, it was a very bad one, but why after this one loss should he retire?
Right. You mentioned Arturo Gatti. I'm glad you mentioned him, because those of us who know about Arturo Gatti will know about the surroundings in which he passed. He lost his life at the hands of his girlfriend or wife at the time. And it was well known by people who knew him well that he was suffering from CTE, and that the CTE gave him depression and mood swings, which led to him domestically assaulting his wife on several occasions, which destroyed their relationship, which ultimately led to his demise. So this is what I'm saying, man. CTE ain't no joke, bro. You know what I mean? It manifests itself in different ways. It's not always about slurred speech and stuff like that. Some of it is less obvious. I know quite a few people in boxing, right, who have boxed, some of them to varying degrees, and a significant number of those guys, they've admitted to me that they are suffering from CTE. You know what I mean? I'm not going to name names, obviously, but I can tell you that from the bottom of my heart. And listen, so when I see certain things and I see a fighter that's been beaten like that and looked, to all intents and purposes, like his cognitive and neurological functions been compromised, I don't like to see it. Now, people are going to say, yeah, it was the weight, it was a car crash, it was Terence Crawford. And yes, all of those things. But it doesn't hide the fact, man, that there's something not quite right about the guy. And going forward, I don't know. It's not going to get better, is it? You know what I mean? So that's my thoughts on it, man. If I was in his, you know, brain's trust, his family or personal friend, I'll be saying to him, Errol, look, you know you don't need to do this anymore. You know what I mean? Don't let pride get in the way of a fall. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, man, your health is more important. You got 3 kids, is it? A wife, family, people who love him. He's made more money than he can spend, probably. I mean, this fight did very well commercially. He said to
Well,
spend like 25 million or made 25 million. Come on, man. You know what I mean? He's promoting fighters now as well. He's got his man down promotions. He's managing fighters even. Do you really need that, bro? Like, he reached the top of the mountain. You know what I mean? You just got to accept that Crawford was the better man. He's a generational talent. He didn't lose to a bum. I don't like to use the word bum anyway, but you know what I'm saying. He lost to an exceptional fighter. So if
well,
he was in that way, it's no shame.
what about those that say, look, you know, after the Ugas fight, they say he looked incredible. You know, they said he looked great. You know, he had a bit of ring rust, and he did look wasn't at his best against Danny Garcia, which was right after the crash. But against Ugas, he pretty much looked close towards top form.
Well, I was one of those that said he looked good against him.
Performance of the year in that Ugas win. You know, that was what rated as their fight of the performance of the year, should I say?
Listen, I was one of those that rated that Ugas win, which is why I gave him a good chance against Crawford. I mean, I picked Crawford to win, but I did say that
So again, is it knee jerk? Is it literally, you know, I'm just being, you know, devil's advocate, but is this a bit knee jerk saying he should retire?
I'm not saying he should retire. What I'm saying is I would like him to retire. I've already said I don't think he will, because you know what boxers are like, man. They're very prideful people, probably the most prideful people in sports. Yeah. And I know Errol Spence is a real warrior. Even though he was getting beaten up round after round, he still kept coming back. You saw his reaction when Harvey Dock stepped in the ninth round and stopped it. He genuinely wanted to fight on. You know what I mean? That is the mentality of a warrior. That's what's got him so far. So listen, man, I'm not questioning that at all. But what I'm saying from a human perspective, I'm looking at that beating he took. And when you take that alongside the other things that's happened to him, the two car crashes, not one, you know, it's two, the detached retina, the amount of time he's been in the game, he's been boxing a hell of a long time. He's had issues with alcohol. I'm just saying, man, all things being considered, it's probably a good time for him to step away from boxing. I honestly do feel that. And like I said, I've seen this story play out before with other top level fighters. You see them today, and I'm not going to name names. I don't think it's fair to do that. We've all seen examples of it. You hear them speak, see the way they are. They're not themselves. And I'm saying to Errol Spence, man, I'd rather you go out one fight too early than one fight too late. And I say that out of not out of criticising.
I think the problem as well for Errol Spence is that 154, it's a high risk, low reward division. There's no superstars there other than your stablemate Jamel Charlo, who you're not going to fight. So there's that issue as well. You're going to go up in weight, and other than Terence Crawford, who you're looking to fight, there are no real superstars there that is that really gonna, you know, like, it's a high risk, low reward division. There are a lot of punchers in that division. There are no superstars in there really. So it's a dangerous division as well. It's not
of course it is.
Yeah.
Well, so boxing is a dangerous sport. Boxing is a dangerous sport per se. He's going to be going up in weight against guys who are now bigger and stronger and punch harder than they did at welterweight. And like I said, there's no guarantee he's going to win. And like I said, his confidence will be severely affected. They've got to be so careful with him going forward, don't you think? Yeah. They have got to be so careful with that guy going forward that it almost suggests to me that that's why he should retire as well. Because, you know, they're talking about him going up to middleweight. I mean, at 33 years old, I think he stayed at welterweight too long anyway. I've said that for a while. But don't get me wrong, I wanted to see the fight with Crawford, so I'm not going to second guess that.
This might sound wrong, but 160, when I look at that division compared to 154, yes, it's two weight classes higher, but that division looks a bit more safer than 154.
Yeah, but what if you come up against a guy like Carlos Adames? He's an absolute
there are some serious guys at 160 in terms of threat level. There is Janibek as well, of course, but after that, I mean, he could get...
Say after that... Listen, man, even if the guys are not...
That division does need cleaning up, 160.
Even if the guys are not as skillful, what I'm saying is they're bigger and stronger and hit harder than the guys he's been facing at welterweight. And you're going up when you're 33 years old and coming off an absolute battering like this, like what he took against Crawford. the training camps, the sparring. You know what I mean? Bro, to me, and I said before, and I'll say it again, I'm speaking from a position of somebody that really admires Errol Spence. I care for the guy. Me personally, if I was in his close knit circle, when everybody else is talking about rematch of Crawford and all that, I'll be pulling into one side and say, look, Errol, I'm speaking to you from the heart, my friend. I just thought I'll just tell you this, being open and honest and transparent. I think you should not fight again. He'd probably tell me, yeah, it's my career, I'll do what I want. Fine. But at least I've got that on my conscience to say, I did advise you, you chose to go against it. That's obviously his prerogative. But me personally, I wouldn't want to see him fight again. I'll probably watch it. I mean, again, I'm going to sound a bit hypocritical, but I would prefer if he retired.
Okay, well, I guess we'll see what happens, man. The ball's in his court now, whether he triggers that rematch clause, whatever he decides to do.
That's a horrible thought.
Clear what he wants to do. He's been pretty open about it, keeps talking about it. Even he changed his Instagram bio, put 154 in there. Keeps saying he wants to rematch. So it don't look like he's going anywhere anytime soon.
No, I fully expect him to fight again.
Yeah.
In fact, I fully expect him to take the rematch. But again, as I said, if it was down to me and I was in his close-knit circle, I would be telling him something different.
Okay. Well, listen, guys, that run out here, I mean, I do get what you're saying. I'm not saying I disagree with it at all, to be fair, so yeah. We'll see what happens. But listen, we'll wrap it up for today, man. We've gone over the hour. I want to shout out everybody in the comments, first of all. Some great comments today. Thank you, guys. Hit the like button if you haven't already. Share the video, subscribe to the channel. For those of you that are going to catch this later, shout out to you guys as well. Leave a comment, let us know your thoughts on the show. As always, man, great show, man. And yeah, we'll have a bit to touch on next week, I'm sure. So
yeah, man, listen, I just want to say thanks for having me on as always. Really appreciate it. Love the show. Love what you're doing on the channel, the Boxing Lowdown, the Mythical Mondays, and all the other content you've been producing. That's great stuff. Thanks, everybody, for watching. I would just say that DR Boxing, which is another show I'm involved in, we are covering the AJ fight on Saturday against Aj-Helenius. So, people, if you're not doing anything, tune in to that. Maybe we even can get Daryl down on Saturday if he's not doing anything, and giving, hear the benefit of his insights and knowledge on boxing. So yeah, tune in, man. Tune in.
For sure. So thank you guys for watching, and we'll catch you guys on the next show. Peace out.